from a cup of that ORMUS stuff. Now, here on the left is an ordinary supermarket orange. The next one is an ordinary supermarket grapefruit. The next one is an orange that's been on the tree for 2 years. After 2 years, it got that big. I mean, that's after 2 years after application. It wasn't on the tree for 2 years. It was 2 years after application. And the one on the far right is an orange that came from a tree that had been watered with this stuff for 4 years. So it's kind of hard to tell, kind of hard to get a relative idea of the size. So I took a picture of an ordinary cantaloupe and an ordinary supermarket orange. And then I measured the circumference around that cantaloupe, and it was the same as the large orange. So that large orange and that cantaloupe are the same size. Just an ordinary supermarket cantaloupe. She has a little dog, one of those little tiny yappy little dogs, and she would feed him orange slices because she thought he ought to like them, but he doesn't. But she fed him a slice of this and he just gobbled it down. So he thinks it tastes better. She says it tastes better too, so apparently it taste is good. And there are the oranges with her there as for size comparison. Then this lady that had the broken tooth, she was using trap water watering her orchid cactus plant, and she noticed that there were lights coming off the tips of the leaves, or she told me that. And I said, does anyone else see them? And she said, yeah, my husband sees them too. And so I said, well, can you take a picture? And she said, sure, I think so. And so these are the pictures. This is the picture that she took of that. On the left, that's the lights starting to form. And then on the right side, fully formed off the tip of the orchid cactus. So ORMUS is relatively easy to make using a variety of methods, which include the wet method, the dry method, the molten lye method, and certain advanced chemical methods, and the magnetic levitation trap method. This is a picture of ORMUS rhodium, iridium, and gold. The one on the left is rhodium. You can see it's kind of got a pinkish tint to it. Next one is iridium, and the one on the right is gold. And along underneath the bottom, that's gold as well. So now we're seeing something that looks like what Moses. He burned gold in the fire and turned it into a powder and strewed it upon the water and made the Israelites drink of it. Well, looks like something we could do now. You know, it looks easy to do because here's that white powder of gold made from metal, made from pure metal. And so we know we have a really good idea that that's what Moses was doing and what the Bible talks about. If you want to do a magnetic trap, I often give instructions on how to build those. Build a magnetic levitation vortex trap according to plans on the internet. Find a good source of underground water and run the water through the trap at the rate of about 100 to 1. 100 liters or 100 gallons of wastewater down the drain or into the garden to 1 of good water. And the stuff that goes, I probably wouldn't put it on my garden. I'd probably put it on my lawn maybe, something I wasn't going to eat because it's depleted of ORMUS, and the other has more ORMUS in it. This is one of my magnetic trap designs. This is a transparent magnetic levitation trap, and notice the vortex going down the center. So we've seen how our connection with spirit may correlate with quantum non-locality. There are other strange abilities that may also have similar quantum correlations. Physicists say that there's one rule or one set of rules for big stuff and another set of rules for little stuff. Bigger than an atom, it behaves according to Newtonian physics. Smaller than an atom, it behaves according to quantum physics. And they say very rarely do we see anything behaving according to the rules of quantum physics at a larger scale than the atom. But here we've got stuff that behaves according to the rules of quantum physics, very large stuff. Puddles of water have been seen moving across the floor toward the nearest person. Puddles of ORMUS water. So this stuff behaves like quantum material. Clairvoyance would be quantum coherence. Telepathy would correlate also to quantum coherence. Levitation, as we saw, would correlate to the superconductive Meissner effect. Prophecy would correlate with what physicists call tachyon theory. Teleportation would correlate with Josephson tunneling. And apparitions, ghosts and stuff that move, visible stuff like that, would correspond with superfluid behavior. And we've actually created stuff that does that superfluid behavior. The woman who did the trap noticed a spontaneous vortex in a glass of her trap water. It just appeared in the trap water. She and her husband took a picture of it, and you can see the picture of it right there. It's a vortex that spontaneously formed in some trap water. And right after they took this picture, a portion of it split, and a portion of it came into the air and formed a globe of sort of luminous substance. It wasn't light, but it was like a cloud, like an apparition. And it bumped her head, and then it bumped her husband's head. So it was aware of them, or you would think it would be aware of them. It was like a living thing, attracted to living things, conscious. Then it moved over under the piano bench, and when it was there, she said, as I walked by the piano bench into the living room, I saw what looked like a dark spot that was about the size of a small orange rise up from the floor, half hitting the underside of the bench, then burst into another bright flash. I'm almost too chicken to say what I literally saw, that I literally saw a small human-type being come up from this light as if being shot from a catapult, then vanish. This may sound crazy and bizarre, but that is what we saw and what happened. As we stood and watched the glass, the vortex took about 20 minutes to slowly fade out, but the glass is still full of evenly dispersed suspended matter. So she was writing this right after it happened. After all this happened, we both became hungry for some reason. For some reason, I felt as if I hadn't had a thing to eat all day. I also felt a surge of an energy flow throughout my whole body that started at the bottom of my feet and went upward. It literally made me feel intoxicated. This feeling comes and goes now, 12:45 a.m. I feel so tired that I can barely keep my eyes open, yet I can still feel the flow. Later, while she was typing this, she said every once in a while she noticed a little face peering in through the window, because it had shot across the room and out through the window, and a little face peering in through the window of this same little being of whatever it was. Little nature spirit of some sort, or tooth fairy or something, I don't know. These are all things that we can explain as quantum behaviors, except for the intelligence part. But now we're seeing how the intelligence, how mind is connected, or spirit is connected to matter. Well, here's some spirit connected to a little bit less solid matter. Dr. Alexander Shpilman, a physicist in Kazakhstan, has used spin fields. Remember the spinning vortex? Well, he uses a spin field to create a vortex in space. And he says that he can use his spin fields to collect or make the ORMUS in a certain area. He just focuses his spin field generator and it will collect it or make it. And so he can apply his spin field generator to ordinary water and it will become enriched with ORMUS. Other scientists in Russia and elsewhere claim that they have measured the propagation rate of spin fields and it is billions of times greater than the speed of light. Billions of times greater than that. That means instantaneous, really. They can't tell the difference between instantaneous and how fast this travels. So what that means is that you see these stars out there and they're billions of light years away. That means the light, or millions of light years away, the light started out millions of years ago and it's just reaching us. Well, if that star is moving, where it is now isn't where we see it. We see it here and it's actually moved over here. But when they put a spin field detector, they don't see it, it doesn't detect the star where they're seeing it, it detects it where it really is. So they know that the spin fields are traveling instantaneously because it detects it where it really is, because they can calculate how fast it would have moved, how far it would have moved in that intervening time. That's instantaneous faster than light communication, has been demonstrated scientifically. Joshua Gulick hung a gold coin in a pyramid replica, and in a week he watched a liquid ooze from the surface of this coin. That's a quote from Joshua. Alchemists call this the oil of gold. And so this is another form that this stuff can show up in. The form that we're familiar with now is a precipitate form. There's also an oil form. And we think that it's in different boxes, different chemical boxes. In one chemical box it'll look like an oil, and in another chemical box it'll look like a precipitate. And in my workshop I explain how water forms a chemical box for it.